Something astonishing is happening in the Canadian province of Alberta. Take a look at these lines. Over the weekend, tens of thousands came out to brave the cold for one purpose: to sign a petition to officially secede from Canada. A movement that was once dismissed as nothing more than a fringe fantasy has exploded into a legitimate political force, with petition lines stretching down city blocks, standing room only town halls across the province, and poll numbers that have establishment politicians panicking. And to the shock of Mark Carney and Ottawa elites alike, the movement for independence is just getting started. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, celebrating yet another day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back on November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. And speak of changing the world, it's really happening. Alberta, Canada's energy powerhouse and conservative heartland, is on track to hold a referendum on independence from Canada by the end of this year. On Saturday, January 11th, petition signing events across Alberta saw lines stretching out of community centers and down entire blocks. In the southeast Calgary community of Queensland, organizers captured footage of hundreds of Albertans waiting in freezing temperatures to sign the citizen initiative petition asking one simple question: do you agree that the province of Alberta should cease to be a part of Canada to become an independent state? Similar scenes played out in Red Deer, where events hit capacity and organizers could barely process the signatures fast enough. Gregory Hartzler, CFO of the Stay Free Alberta campaign, told City News they're seeing this level of enthusiasm at every single stop all across the entire province. The petition was officially approved by Elections Alberta in December after Premier Danielle Smith's government changed referendum rules to allow it to proceed. The Alberta Prosperity Project, led by CEO Mitch Sylvester, who also happens to be a constituency association president for Smith's United Conservative Party, now has until May 2nd to collect the required 178,000 verified signatures. If they succeed, Alberta will hold a binding referendum on independence potentially as early as this fall. And here's what makes this so unprecedented. They're going to hit that number easily. And when they do, it will be the largest physical signature petition in Canadian history. And all the polls are suggesting that this movement isn't going away anytime soon. In fact, it's accelerating. Research Co. released survey results showing 31% of Albertans now support provincial independence, up 9 points from just 18 months ago in June of 2023. Support jumped 5 points in Calgary to 31%, 5 points in Edmonton to 34%, and a massive 11 points in rural Alberta to 34%. But what really should terrify Canada's liberal political elite: the highest support for secession is actually among Alberta's youngest voters. Among Albertans aged 18 to 34, support for independence hit 40%. Let that sink in. 4 out of 10 young Albertans, the generation that's supposed to be woke, globalist, pro-centralization, no, they want to leave Canada entirely. This isn't boomers clinging to nostalgia. This is young people who've watched federal climate policies destroy energy jobs, equalization payments, those are basically subsidies to the other provinces, drain $4.2 billion per year out of their province, all the while they get nothing back. And Ottawa politicians who've never set foot in Alberta dictate how they're allowed to make a living. Take, for example, those equalization payments. Alberta contributes roughly $4.2 billion annually to federal transfer payments while receiving literally $0 back. And as I understand it, Alberta hasn't received their own share of equalization payments since the 1960s. Meanwhile, Quebec receives literally billions despite having lower tax rates than Alberta. The system was supposedly designed to ensure provinces can provide comparable public services, but it's morphed into this permanent wealth transfer from productive provinces to politically favored ones. And Albertans are done subsidizing it. They want Albertan money to stay in Alberta. They want their own money to take care of their own backyard, take care of their own seniors, take care of their health care, take care of their kids, their roads, their schools, their industries. Why should Alberta's prosperity be used to prop up the social welfare programs of Quebec or the latest woke pet projects of Ontario? It's not about separatism. It's about sovereignty. It's the same logic driving conservative movements all across the Western world. People who work hard, pay taxes, and play by the rules are tired of distant elites redistributing their wealth to buy votes elsewhere while lecturing them about their carbon footprint and their privilege. More and more Albertans want to be financially independent and free. Speaking of, have you seen the stock market lately? It's absolutely booming under Trump. The market ended up just shy of 16% last year. Gas prices are down. Inflation is under control. And since Trump took office, our nation has collected over $230 billion from tariffs, helping slash the trade deficit in half, the lowest in 2 decades. That means there's a massive opportunity to profit from the growth of American companies. But you got to know what you're doing. And you have to know what's really going on in the market and ignore the legacy media's lying narrative of doom and gloom. Their fear-mongering is deliberately trying to prevent you and millions of patriotic Americans from taking advantage of all the actual growth we're seeing under Trump. And I don't want that for you. I want you to know the truth about what's happening, which is why I am so excited to announce that our good friend Mark Wilburn of Neos Capital is hosting a free 5-day online training called the Zero to Trading Bootcamp, January 19th to the 23rd. It's designed to take you from knowing nothing about trading stocks to placing your first trade in just a week. Mark is a stock market expert whose picks have led to returns of over 200%. He's got this knack for demystifying the stock market so everyday Americans can learn how to profit from it. We had so much positive feedback from our listeners the last time that Mark hosted one of these events that we asked if he would do another. People like Randy, who said, quote, "The Zero to Trading Bootcamp is an amazing program. Your financial life can be forever changed." And Bert, who after attending one of those events went on to make nearly $25,000 on a $60,000 account in just 6 weeks. He even sent over these statements to prove the legacy media is lying and that patriots really are prospering under Trump like never before. And it shows the type of opportunity that exists right now in this new golden age we're in. So if you're looking for ways to benefit from this booming Trump economy, then click the link below or go to freeturleyticket.com to reserve your spot. Tickets are normally $97, but Mark's agreed to open up registration absolutely for free for all of our listeners because he wants to support patriots just like you. We're living in America's golden age, and it's time to take bold moves to build the legacy we want for our families. Go to freeturleyticket.com right now to reserve your spot. It starts January 19th. You're going to absolutely love it.
Dare to dream that the dawn is breaking on an independent, united kingdom.
One of the reasons why the globalist elite were so shocked by the passing of the Brexit referendum back on June 23rd, 2016, and of course that was nothing compared to the shock of what would happen just months later on November the 8th. But the reason they were so shocked is that both the Brexit polls and the Trump polls that year failed to capture the pro-independence sentiments of the low to no propensity voter. What many people don't realize is that 2 million people who voted in favor of the Brexit referendum hadn't voted in a British election in any of the last several election cycles. So the polls were wrong because that polling assumed that those low to no prop voters would stay home once again. They have been out to vote in years. Why would they come out to vote now? It was the same with Donald Trump's first victory a few months later. Rural voters, urban voters, white, non-white, working class voters, Gen Z voters who hadn't voted in years or some who had not voted at all suddenly came out en masse and voted either to leave the EU in the case of Brexit or leave the liberal globalist world order in the case of Trump. That's the power of independence referendums. I actually talked about this personally with Nigel Farage at the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. And I told him I thought Trump was the American version of Brexit. Trump actually called himself Mr. Brexit during the 2016 campaign. He was a big supporter of Britain's sovereignty and dismantling the EU, for which the EU elites never forgave him. But Trump, I argued to Nigel, was our declaration of independence from the liberal globalist world order. He was our Brexit, and that's why the two votes were so similar. And Farage absolutely agreed. You see, scholars have documented how independence referendums consistently generate some of the highest voter turnout rates in electoral history, often surpassing regular elections by dramatic margins. And that's what you got to get in all of this. The reason why Alberta sovereignty has legs is because if referendums get placed on the ballot, if that referendum gets placed in the ballot in the next several months, it will, if passed as precedent, it will generate the largest turnout election in Alberta's history. Independence referendums consistently generate the highest voter turnout rates in electoral history. And that's largely because nothing brings out, again, what are called low prop or no prop voters like independence referendums. They finally have something to vote for. They finally have something that sticks it to the very establishment that's caused them to drop out of politics. So that's why more Brits came out to vote for UK independence from the EU than had ever come out before in any British election in history. The 2014 Scottish independence referendum achieved a remarkable 85% turnout. 85%, far exceeding any typical UK general election. Similar in 1995, the Quebec sovereignty referendum, the closest akin to Albertan sovereignty, that referendum drew 94% turnout. It was the highest participation rate in Quebec's electoral history. Montenegro's 2006 independence referendum drew an astonishing 87% turnout. Again, completely unprecedented. This is the pattern we see over and over again. Nothing brings out voters like independence referendums. And so that's why the liberal elites in Ottawa should be freaking out right now because of the polls that are showing 1 in 3 Albertans would vote to secede from Canada. Well, that's a lot. You would say, oh, but it's not 50% or it's not 2 in 3. Well, what those polls don't show you are the tons, and I do mean the tons of low to no prop voters who aren't getting polled, but who will most certainly be coming out on Election Day, the day the referendum is up for approval. They'll come out en masse, and the polls will once again be shown to have radically underestimated secessionist support. And we're already seeing it in those massive lines. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on how things develop here, but 2026 may indeed be the year of a sovereign and independent Alberta.